Hello, everyone. Brady Hicks here, ChannelVision Magazine. The following podcast was recorded prior to the change of date for the upcoming Channel Fusion event in Charlotte, North Carolina. The new dates for Channel Fusion are June 7th through 9th, 2023. Once again, Channel Fusion's event, Charlotte, North Carolina, June 7th through 9th, 2023. Welcome, everyone, once again to this CV podcast right here on ChannelVisionMag.com. I'm Brady Hicks. Today, we're actually going to be doing something a little bit differently. We're going to be talking about the Channel Fusion event that's February 8th through 10th in Charlotte, North Carolina. And to do so, I'm actually going to introduce a very special guest who will be moderating a discussion on this great event and everything Channel Fusion as well. Her name Carolyn Bradfield. Carolyn is the CEO of Convey Services. She's had 5 successful startup ventures, 4 self-financed, achieved profitable exits and strong returns for investors. And I'm sure that's just the tip of the iceberg for Carolyn. How are you doing today, Carolyn?
I'm doing great, and thanks for that introduction. But I think more importantly, and for this particular audience, I've had a great deal of experience in the channel. I've been a vendor that has used other channel partners. I've had channel partner programs and served the channel for around 25 years now. And so I'm really happy to be talking about the Channel Fusion event coming up in February. And I've had the privilege of working with the professional event organization, the MCI group, that's actually producing the event. And we have been on an advisory council to help guide how this new event can be constructed, how it can meet the needs of the channel, and really do something important and interesting. And joining me today are 2 of the folks that have been in the channel, been my friends for a long time, Karin Fields and Curt Allen, and both are serving on the advisory council. So I think I'd like to turn to Karin first. Karin, why don't you, if there's anybody on the planet that doesn't yet know who you are, give us a little bit of your background in the channel and what you're doing currently.
Thanks for the intro. I have been in the channel 20 something years. As I tell people, dinosaurs were roaming the earth when I started. My husband started a TSB, which is, formerly a master agency, and I started working with him because things were getting really busy, and I was like, I'm only going to do this until things slow down. And that things never slowed down. It's been a great ride. We sold our company Microcorp to AppDirect almost 2 years ago, and I was with AppDirect in a vice president role for about 18 months. And then this past July, decided that, there were things I wanted to do, such as go and get my master's in cybersecurity. So I am now doing some consulting work, primarily with suppliers, on helping them understand the indirect channel and grow more from the indirect channel. And I'm at Kennesaw State University, go Owls, getting my master's in cybersecurity. I love this industry, and I am just very excited about where it's going to be going and growing, because we're really at an interesting part of our growth. And I think Channel Fusion is the type of event that is going to enable advisors to catapult what they're doing into the next level, and that we need more events like this. So I'm very excited to be a part of it.
Awesome. And so joining you is someone who's had almost an equal amount of experience in the channel and a lot of overlaps in things that you've done as well as what he's done. So Curt, walk us through your experience in the channel. You've got a diverse amount of on both the telecom solutions brokerage side as well as the vendor side and now consulting. So give us an overview of your background.
Well, first of all, I'm the rookie on this call. Karin was actually my kindergarten school teacher, so I'm far younger
Shut
than
up. I know where you live. I will hunt you down.
her. But so I've only been in the industry for like 32 years now, so I'm just kind of creeping into it. But my background is both in Carolyn and I worked together back in the conferencing and collaboration business with Intercall back in the day, and then I had a company called X4 Solutions, a master agent, similar but smaller than Karin's company, that we sold in 2016. I like to say we did the first transaction, so maybe we opened up the floodgates to all the capital in the market. But since then, I've gone back and done leadership roles at a handful of carriers. But in the last 2.5 years, I started a consulting practice, and I work for both the private equity marketplace on M&A, and I do a lot of kind of tactical consulting with providers and distributors in the space at my practice, which is EagleTEQ Consulting.
Well, given the fact that all of us, if we combine all of our years in the channel, we might be creeping up on 100 years collectively in the channel. Well, I mean, it's been a lot, right? Yeah. So it would be fair to say that I have seen both of you at a number of channel events throughout the years, whether they're in Vegas or in Fort Lauderdale, they're all over the place. So Curt, kind of sticking with you, when we think about the collective number of events that we've gone to, why do you think there's a place for Channel Fusion, and what gap do you think it's serving that's not currently being addressed by the offerings that are in the market today?
Well, I think when we go back to kind of the early iterations of the existing events, it was really about kind of getting people together. It was about kind of sharing information, sharing knowledge. And so the crux of those events was all really about social. It was about getting people together. And, frankly, they turned more into kind of, let's go to Vegas and party for 4 days, or right, let's go to a secondary market and party for 3 days, and maybe we'll like bump into our providers and carriers. And the last 10 years or so, there's been some real work in trying to turn that into more kind of instructional, sharing, caring, learning type events. But frankly, folks like Karin, like Karin and Brad at Microcorp, they did a better job of doing that with their specific event around Microcorp, where you could go and meet with carriers and actually have substantive conversations with providers and learn about technologies. And I think the larger events have kind of failed on that front. So that's where I think Channel Fusion, there's an opportunity to turn something into a really good use of time that's productive for not just the leaders and owners of businesses, but for the functional kind of sellers and the doers inside those companies.
And I think that that's what's really important. And thank you, Curt, for your kind words about our one-on-one, because I think that it is imperative that our partners, especially now with things changing so dramatically, that they have each other to be able to communicate with and share with and learn about each other's experience and engage in some meaningful dialogue, informally and formally, that is helping them to see experientially what their peers are going through, so that they realize they're not alone, and to see how others are, maneuvering this new world, and what are things that they could be doing or trying that maybe they haven't thought about. And I think that that's what is so great about Channel Fusion is it's trying to keep people together so that they're investing and learning about each other and what they're doing to help grow their own business. And it's not just for them, it's for their teams.
Yeah, so Karin and Curt, I'd like to echo what you said. My personal experience when I've gone to events is that it is a lot of partying. It is kind of like random connections. If you see somebody at the bar, you see them in the party, then you connect, but it's not really deliberate. And I do think a lot of energy has moved away from the central kind of energy or floor or central space that the event takes place in. So you miss those connections where you can mentor and learn from people that are actually doing things in the channel. And one concept that I was really enamored with that I heard in the advisory council was helping businesses create a better bench strength. So in other words, they've got great sellers, they've got people that are managing the customer, and you guys call them all rising stars, and how we're going to try and help those people, not just the owners, really kind of move up to the next level. So Karin, you want to weigh in on that a little bit about the importance, the concept of the rising stars, and the importance that we address that in the Channel Fusion event?
Well, I think that in any business, there has to be sustainability. And the first part of sustainability is ensuring that it's not just one person that's carrying the bag. And in order for organizations to have that growth potential, that they have to invest in developing their own inside talent. I think within Microcorp, Cindy Briggs is a perfect example of that with where she's gone in her career. She started off as a pricing person, and we saw so much potential in her and wanted her to grow into something. And now she's a national channel manager. Actually, she's even got a better title than that. I just don't remember what it is. Sorry, Cindy. But it's essential for organizations to have that growth strategy. And the best way to do it is to get them to events like this where they can talk to a variety of people and hear a lot of different perspectives, and they can figure out things that feel comfortable to them, because it's not always just one way of tackling an issue or engaging with a customer. There are a lot of different ways, and you want to help them to see all the different ways that are out there. So I think that the Rising Star is essential for this type of program, this type of conference, as well as I think that they're fresh eyes. They're going to ask questions about things that we never even thought of. And so as leaders, it's going to help us to see things and maybe reevaluate some of our own strategies of how we do things.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And it also kind of reflects the fact that we are attempting to have an expanded content strategy. One of the comments that was made in the advisory council is, not to have vendors who are very important to the event, but have them pontificate about their product versus just what's going on in the industry and content that would be useful. Curt, do you want to weigh in on that a little bit about just an expanding thought process of how Channel Fusion is looking at the content strategy in a bit of a different way?
Absolutely. First of all, Karin, I looked up Cindy's title. It's Coolest Lady in Atlanta.
Okay, that is true. I don't know how I missed that.
Yeah, so that's her full title. But it's interesting. We talk about that kind of rising star and kind of the knowledge up through the chain, where so much focus historically has been on the owners and operators of these businesses, and we've neglected to think about the next generation. And then, interestingly enough, even though Karin and I are both extremely young still, a lot of people are of a generation where we're getting closer to the finish line than the start line. In my primary project at Blue Wave Technology Group, we're trying to build a business, and we're doing some M&A, and we're aggregating companies together to build what we hope will be kind of an Accenture type advisory company in the space. And to do that, we've got to make everybody from the most junior folks up through middle management into senior leadership really smart in the business. So something like Channel Fusion to address both, certainly operators and leaders need to align with providers and the marketplace and all that, but we need the people who actually operate in the business, the folks who do the work, the folks who sell the deals, to have a place where they too can get smart about what's going on in the business. And that's why I really like kind of the approach we're taking with this event, is that we're addressing the entire kind of, to use the technology stack reference, we're going after the entire talent stack within these organizations so that we can deliver impactful information and kind of usable information for these folks to do their jobs better.
Yeah, I think that's really critical. And one thing you just referenced that I feel like we need to drill down on is the evolved M&A environment in the channel. Mm-hmm. Now, the three of us have this in common. We've all started, generated, and sold companies. And sometimes that goes well, and sometimes it doesn't quite go the way that we think. And so, Curt, I specifically remember back in, I can't believe it's been since 2016 that you sold X4. It feels like it was yesterday. But I remember it was the first time you had done a transaction like that. So if you had to go back and replay the tape and think about what you should have known to be better prepared for the whole acquisition environment, what kind of details should we be helping these business owners with as they think about perhaps selling their business to someone else?
Well, first of all, I'll tell everyone who told me in 2015 that our business was unsaleable because we didn't own the customer, we're lying. When we see all the capital that's come to the market, it's become crazy. But like when I look back on it, like and obviously, Carolyn, about my role now where I work in M&A and I talk to a lot of partners who are thinking about doing that, is like, I think that we did a pretty good job at X4, the four of us that own the business, in really being conscious about what we were doing. And I think everybody in our space, with any scale, needs to really make a conscious decision to either sell or not sell. And the only way to do that is to go through a process, like to, take the call, go through the process, but keep your mind wide open. And that if at the end of the day, and by the way, like 80% of you, this is the right decision. But if at the end of the day, the decision is to not sell, like make that decision consciously too. Fall back in love with your business. Run to the finish line the next time. Like, don't get caught up in the kind of shiny objects because your phone's going to ring off the hook. There's so much capital in the marketplace right now. Don't forget that the reason capital came here is because we do a really good job of selling a wide variety of services to a wide swath of customers really efficiently, and we retain those customers. So like those fundamental business concepts are why we're attractive. So never forget those. Like, don't get so caught up in your EBITDA that you forget that customers and revenue matters.
I think that for a lot of organizations, well, for a lot of owners, they have to really think about what they really want, because there are quite a few organizations that are in the acquisition business, and they have different models. And so I think that that's one of the things that an owner has to decide initially is, what do they want to do? Do they want to fully retire and walk away? Do they want to just take some money off the table to start another venture and only be semi-involved? Do they want to take some money away, but for a vacation home, but still really be involved? I think that that's the first step is, as owners, they have to decide what it is that they want so that they can have better conversations with the organizations that are reaching out to them. And yes, Curt, I totally agree that they should take every call that they get to learn about what is interesting about their company that an outsider sees that they may not have realized. And I think that there are some interesting acquirers out there, like Sue Messner just sold her company to ARG, and ARG hasn't really, this is, I think, their first acquisition. So there are a lot of different avenues for owners. And the first step is they have to decide what it is that they really want. That's step number one. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that they need to do to understand where their value is as a acquiree. But first they have to decide what they want. What's their next step in life?
And to that point, Karin, I think I talk a lot about there's kind of the three things, like what's your enterprise value? Is someone going to value your business in a fashion that's going to satisfy kind of your dreams and ambitions? If that purchaser wants you to roll forward some equity, or you have the opportunity to roll forward equity, are you like wildly enthusiastic about the prospects of NewCo? To make sure that return is even more profitable than your initial investment. And those two things are kind of easy and logical. The third one is, what does your life look like, after the bang? Like,
Yes.
What does your life look like on day one of NewCo? And I think that's the one that I think folks have struggled with. Like, we all like to think like, oh yeah, this is great. I'm going to take a bunch of money and then I'll go work for NewCo and it'll be great. But I think sometimes we forget that the reason that we, work for, our own co is because we didn't want to work for, big. So like, we have to be honest with ourselves too.
Oh, I totally agree. And I think that that's one of the comments that I've gotten from more people who've sold their businesses. When they envisioned the next day after the sale, they thought it was going to be, rainbows and unicorns. And then the reality set in and they were like, I didn't think about it like this. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's really important. They have to decide what they want from day two and be honest with themselves about it.
Yeah, and I think that that's what makes ChannelVision a lot more relevant in the marketplace, because when we think about the event itself and creating these connections that are more deliberate and specific, being able to be in a community of others that have actually made the decision and what their experience has been, learning from how things that they did well, things that they wish that they had done differently, is going to be critically important to anybody that owns a business that's even got that on the top of their mind. And so we're going to make sure that they have plenty of opportunity to do that. But in addition, bring in some outside folks that are from different disciplines that will help you get ready. So when you think about a football game, people go to a trainer to get muscled up and do other things. And I think there's a whole prep work that you have to think about in the lead up to it, versus, hey, I want to sell, and then it's going to be really easy to do that, because it's generally not that way. So that's where I think ChannelVision is going to bring a lot of help and direction through mentorship, connections, and content to make sure these folks really, have what they need to make an informed decision. Mm-hmm. So as we're getting to the end of the hour or the podcast, I just wanted to reach back out to you guys for a final thought. So Karin, if someone's going to maximize their experience at ChannelVision, what would you advise an attendee to be thinking about in terms of coming to the event?
I would have them, I would strongly suggest that they look at who the providers are and look at who are some of the attendees, go on LinkedIn and do some research about the attendees and kind of pick out a couple of people that they want to engage with and have a conversation with. Maybe it's somebody who is in their space or in their area, or somebody that they've heard a lot about that's being successful, and purposefully try to set up a time to meet with them. I definitely think that with the learning bar and some of the unique things that ChannelVision is doing, being a part of the event, staying on the floor, and participating is going to give you the most bang for your buck. If you're just like running into a meeting and then running back to your hotel room to take calls, you're really not going to get the full benefit of an experience like this. I think it's important to be present, to be fully engaged, and that means staying on the floor, talking with the providers, taking advantage of the opportunities like the learning bar, and really getting the most out of the event.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You know, so many people sequester themselves behind a meeting room, and you do miss a lot of what's going on in the event. So the goal of Channel Fusion is to keep a lot of the knowledge and education right on the floor. So you've got more intimate opportunities to learn and participate. So you don't plan to be, you know, a passive person sitting in the back of the room on your iPad. You know, you're going to be very much part of the conversation. So, right. Curt, what would you suggest to folks that are thinking about attending?
Well, just to echo on that, I mean, like, be deliberate, be intentional. Like, if I, as a business owner, am sending, you know, staff to Channel Fusion, is, you know, come up with a plan. Like, what's our plan? What are we trying to get out of this event? This isn't about showing up and, you know, having cocktails and dreams. This is about how do we make connections? How do we make our business better by virtue of getting there? How do we take my investment in you attending and, you know, turn that into revenue? And so for me, that's, you play defense. You go there and you talk to the providers and carriers that you're doing business with and manage those relationships, but then you play offense. And to Karin's point is that you keep your mind open and you learn and you expose yourself to new providers. You expose yourself to potentially things you can add to your practice. But like, you know, just from a framework perspective, be really deliberate, be really intentional, and, you know, document and track. Like, you know, follow through. Like, I can't tell you how many, you know, from both sides, when I had the master agency and then when I was on the carrier side, we'd have all these conversations and then someone on one side or the other wouldn't follow through. And so then there were conversations in a vacuum. Nothing happened. So be deliberate, be intentional, and follow through.
Yeah, and I think those are all good thoughts. I want to add to that. So my advice for organizations that are thinking about attending is, one, go deeper in your organization to include others that you want to develop as those rising stars, because they will find value in Channel Fusion. The second thing would be that Channel Fusion is going to help facilitate connections. So coming, you know, before the event, you'll have an opportunity to use some intelligent filtering of the people that are coming to find ones that you want to meet, people that you have things in common with, or folks that have done things that you'd like to know more about. So, for example, Curt or Karin, who've sold a business. And I think the third thing is, we've been talking a lot about content, knowledge, et cetera. It's going to be a fun event. You're coupled right up next to the NASCAR experience, which is really hilarious and a lot of fun. So you'll get a balance of those fun connections, those social times, but just make sure that you understand that this is an event that's going to have a balanced approach versus some of the things you might have seen before, like going to Vegas and it's one party after the other. So with that, I will turn it back over to Brady if there are any final questions you would like to ask.
Wow. First off, hats off to you guys. You made my job so easy today. I really appreciate it. It's been so thorough and comprehensive. So I do appreciate that. I guess the only real question for me would be, and I don't know who would be best equipped to answer this, but what sort of things can we expect from Channel Fusion in the future?
Well, I think that this is Carolyn. I'll answer that question. I think that this will be the first event in this industry for the MCI Group, which is a very well-respected professional event organization. And I think they would like to build on the success of Channel Fusion and offer more events like this, whether they're regional or national, in the future. And I think the other thing you can expect is that, you know, this is an evolved design. And I think any event that doesn't evolve their design based on feedback from their audience is one that becomes not relevant. And we've seen that in the marketplace today. So I think you can expect the folks over at the MCI Group to be looking at the design, bringing what they know about other events that they've held, and continuing to evolve the design.
If people want more information on Channel Fusion or any of the surrounding stuff, where can they go online?
So the virtual event site is online now, is channelfusionexpo.com. And you can keep checking back on the site because there are more and more information that comes online as we solidify the agenda, reveal who the speakers and the session leaders are. So you'll learn about Charlotte. It's a nice, great regional center that's easy to get to, especially if you're driving from Atlanta, up from Florida, the mid-Atlantic, super easy to get to, and a lot of fun things to see at Charlotte. And the hotels are just right across the street from the convention center, making it super convenient just to walk across the street and there you are.
All right, fantastic. Carolyn, as well as Karin and Curt, thank you all so much for the time today. Like I said, it's been really great. Everybody be sure to visit channelfusionexpo.com and the virtual event is up now. And of course, be sure to check it out for more information as well. And while you guys are online, don't forget to also visit channelvisionmag.com. Check out all the great CVTVs and podcasts like this and webinars and just lots of great content available on demand. On behalf of Channel Fusion, of course, MCI and all the companies that we mentioned, this has been Channel Vision Podcast. Brady Hicks, everybody, take care.